Hello, folks. Hope every one of you is doing good out there. This is your host Shahid Mahmood. Welcome back to Cafe Iqtasad. A few things to discuss today in brief, which will tell you a lot about the predicament, the real predicament of Pakistan economy, away from the official pronouncements which have been telling us for more than a year now that the economy is doing good. We are out of the woods, out of danger zone, and everything is good. We are fiscally stable, prudent, and there's nothing to worry about. Well, few of the announcements or few of the instances, recent instances, one being an official announcement regarding poverty figures, tells you something otherwise. So let's briefly go through those and try to understand what it tells us about the Pakistan's economy. The first one is, of course, the Planning Commission's report on poverty figures, and it says that it's around 28% or a bit more. Second instance is about total debt of Pakistan, external and domestic debt. We've been told that Pakistan's external debt has now it's now stands at 138 billion dollars. That's up from 128-29 billion dollars in when the last fiscal ended. So it has gone up, and of course the domestic debt, it's around 80 trillion rupees now, or a bit more than that. So that's for debt. Third instance is the failure to issue panda bonds, much hyped. They've been telling us that we'll be issuing panda bonds, and they've been doing PR exercises regarding that, the government. But they failed in issuing those bonds. They were issuing those to get some external loans or to get some external financing for paying, probably for different reasons, for probably for a few projects and maybe for paying off the other loans, but I think it was mainly for a few projects in Pakistan. But they failed in issuing those bonds, and then you we have this instance of Pakistan almost begging United Arab Emirates (UAE) to roll over its safe deposits parked in State Bank of Pakistan for a few months at an astronomical rate of 6.5%. That's a lot, and just for 2 months, and it's even not a lot of money. So this and that fourth instance is one where we've been told that the much hype firewall that had been implemented probably a year or two ago to control social media and to suppress dissent, that has failed. That has cost Pakistan's taxpayers an amount of rupees 40 billion and more, which has been reported in the press. Probably it's more than that, but that's what has been reported in the press. So, what do we make of all of these developments? First of all, the poverty figures. It tells you that all that hyped up soup about, or the information about, or the narrative about Pakistan economy being out of the woods, being stable, and doing good is not worth it. And mind you, the figures run back all the way to 2018-19, and since then, and they've been telling us that poverty has been rising. So it's not just one government, two governments. One can have a point of view about how they calculated that methodology, but still it's very worrisome number for different reasons. First of all, as I said, it hits the official narrative that we are doing good. In between, there have been few instances. For example, during the PTI government, the GDP rate grew went up to 6%. It was down. At one time it was down to almost 0% when COVID-19 struck. But then there was one instance where it went up to 6%. But what it tells you is that all that economic growth rates, they somehow aren't working for the people. Somehow that supposed trickle down effect, that if there is economic growth and there is per capita income growth with it, then it will trickle down to the lower, the middle class, and the poor, and all would benefit. The rising tide lifting all boats phenomena. But obviously, what this report tells us is that it's not happening. It casts a lot of doubt about government policies. It casts doubts about the channels that are being used, and I'll discuss those, for affecting that transfer, or affecting that trickle down effect. Uh, it's that overall it's a failure of the growth narrative, that economy is doing well and there have been periods of economic growth. Now we are going to go up to around 4%, about 3.5 to 4% of we'll have GDP growth around in that mark. Well, you can have all the GDP growth, but if poverty is still rampant, and all the strata isn't benefiting from the growth in GDP, then it doesn't matter much, honestly, in terms of at least welfare perspective. So you have to look at, one has to look at the failures of this narrative. One has to look at the failure of this trickle down effect. How, what it's important to recognize, and it's important to analyze why this isn't working. And the important one is, it tells you something about, it's not that government of Pakistan doesn't have a big social safety net regarding or poverty expenditures. In fact, if you look at state bank reports, it will tell you something. The State Bank of Pakistan report, at the appendix, you'd find that pro poor expenditures, they call it pro poor expenditures, that's about 5 trillion rupees. It back two fiscals when I last saw those statistics. So Pakistan, government of Pakistan spends a lot of money. It's not that they don't spend money. They spend a lot of money on poverty reduction or poverty control. I won't say control, but poverty reduction, or that it doesn't go up, or it doesn't affect, even if there is some episode like inflationary episode. So these social safety nets, they are built for this similar this very purpose, that such shocks to the poor, they are with the help of the government, with the help of these social safety nets, they are countered. But it, for example, Pakistan's largest social safety net program, Benazir Income Support Program, they have an expenditure above 600 billion rupees a year. What these numbers tell you is that it has been a complete failure. The BISP, it has been running since 2008. And mind you, as I said, it's not just one. You have it's the federal level, even at provincial level, they have a large social safety net. They do have programs that institute redistribution or fiscal transfers. So obviously, all this tells you is that these aren't working, and poverty is increasing. So really, one needs to analyze. The government at least needs to analyze what they are trying to do and what's wrong with these programs, and what will work. So this is for, at least for the poverty. It tells you about stagnation, relative stagnation of the economy. We know that there aren't many jobs being created. Pakistan went through a stagnation since 2022, and it still hasn't recovered fully from that. So there's this poverty. These are what the poverty figures are telling us. Next, you go to the domestic, and we go to the domestic and internal external debt situation. I don't know. We again, the official narrative has been that we are well placed and we don't need any external loans. Pakistan is well placed to do without external loans. But in between, if you don't need external loans, that's what I've been told. How did you manage to rack up an additional $10 billion since the last fiscal? And for what purpose? What are you taking all these loans for? We know that we've been taking loans from the IMF, but what about the other loans? And again, really, as I've talked in my vlogs before, one really has to question all that foreign aid for Pakistan, all that foreign inflow, capital inflow, the financial inflows coming into Pakistan. Recently, last year, we signed yet another MOU with the World Bank, a framework, kind of a framework that involves around $20 billion in loans in the next 10 years. And again, it raises this question: why are you taking up so many external loans, and for what purpose? It's not that throughout our history we've never had the external loans. We've had quite a lot. Say my foreign aid paper, it tells all of us that since 1950, Pakistan has had commitments of more than $200 billion, and out of that, around 160 to 165 billion dollars have already landed in Pakistan. So what did we make of it, and why do we need all these loans? And if we are doing so good that we have been told endlessly, why do we take up loans? For which projects? What has been the outcome of that project? So that's for external loans. And coming to domestic loans, again, uh, it tells you that all that official explanation of, or all that official proclamation of we are doing fiscally good, or fiscally we are fiscally prudent, or we are fiscally stable, It's just announcements, because otherwise, I mean, look at your current expenditure. It's running away. It's a runaway current expenditure. It's not decreasing at all. And this is despite the fact that last year the government of Pakistan got a 3 trillion rupee bounty from State Bank of Pakistan. The State Bank of Pakistan profits. State Bank transferred those 3 trillion to government treasury. Despite that, you still ended up with very high or domestic loans reaching 80 trillion rupees. How did that happen? If you are fiscally stable, why would you need that much money, and why is it increasing at an alarming pace? Just recently, just last, I think it was yesterday, that State Bank of Pakistan released this report, which said that in the first 7 months of this fiscal year, meaning since July, the government borrowings have increased again, and they've crossed a trillion rupees, around 2 trillion rupees in the first 7 months, or 1.9 trillion rupee to be exact. That's an alarming situation. Again, again, if government says that we are fine and there is no danger, so why are you picking up so much loans? Why are you taking up so much loans? You are basically crowding out the private sector too. I'm sure you all have heard about crowding out, so that you are not giving space to the private sector to take up loans and do some investment. That's a really worrying thing, and that's one thing to look out for. The third one, obviously, is the panda bonds, and the obviously, as I've said, begging United UAE to roll over loans. So panda bonds, when it comes to panda bonds, I don't know, I don't have the exact detail, but what appears is that they were doing it against a project. They wanted some panda bond financing against a project, but it turned out that the project was very poorly designed. Specifically, the land, I think it was the project's name is Jinnah Hospital. The land that it was being built upon, it turned out to be contentious. The government doesn't have any right for it, upon it. So when they were issuing panda bonds, or when they plan to issue panda bonds, the financiers, or the ones who would have financed those panda bonds, they asked this question, that what are you issuing it against? What's the underlying asset? And the asset turned out to be faulty. Government doesn't have any land or right upon the land, so that this is embarrassing. I mean, it calls into question who's been planning all these things, and whether they really check their information, whether they really check the basics, do the basics of issuing these kind of bonds. I don't know who's sitting in the finance ministry dealing with these things. I mean, this is embarrassing for a country, but who cares? Pakistan, it's almost every day is an embarrassment with the kind of people running our economy. Nothing surprising. Then even more embarrassing is that we have had to run to UAE just to roll over around 600 or 700 million dollars of loan at an astronomical 6.75%. Again, that's very embarrassing for a country that talks so much and that has been in the news so much. Just look at the foreign tours of our prime minister and his proclamations that Pakistan is now at a juncture that everybody recognizes our contribution, and we are on a high. So if you are on a high, how is it that you have to beg a country for around $600 million? I mean, is that something to be proud of? Really? And the last one is the continuing tale of waste in terms of public sector development money. It's a 40 billion project supposedly for installing a firewall. It began 2 3 years ago. They wanted to install a firewall, obviously to suppress opinion. That's what Pakistan's bureaucracy or security establishment, specifically army, they just don't like criticism. They can't take it, and they came up with this project. The person who is sitting on who's running PTC, Pakistan Telecommunication, is a retired general, and he was placed there against all norms and against all rules and regulations. The way he was placed there, so they wanted to install a firewall so that they can suppress opinion, or they can suppress dissent. 2 3 years, and after an expenditure of 40 billion rupees, turned out that it's useless. So the real question, it's not the first one that has happened in Pakistan. It's not the first project in Pakistan that has gone to waste, that has been a complete waste or has cost exchequer. The main issue is who is going to bring these people to account that were responsible for this waste. And that is the real question. Unless you start, unless the government of Pakistan starts bringing these kind of people to account and they go to jail, this won't stop. This isn't the first one and this won't be the last one. 40 billion rupees is a lot of money, but who cares? So that's pretty much Pakistan. That's pretty much its economy. A stagnant economy, not a vibrant economy. Jobs are rare. Jobs are not growing. It's the economy isn't growing much. All that GDP growth, it's suppose seemingly isn't working, which the poverty and inequality statistics are telling us. And we are still in not out of the woods, as I just narrated. If you look at the external position and the way we are begging other countries to roll over their loans, which have been with State Bank of Pakistan for some time, it tells you about desperate economy. It tells you about desperate states of a country that tries to act with bravado, but the underlying economic situation is pretty perilous, and it's dire. So that's it for this vlog, and I hope to see you in the future. Stay put. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.